we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Debate amongst friends, Doc El Idolo, as J.A. would call me. J.A. Gotti coming at us live here. The Professor John Gotti, ladies and gentlemen, the King of RNG, the Troll Master, the data analyzer, and the call of his own fate. The newly formed Terminator. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's got all the brooms. He's got the mops. He is the cleaner.
The least hype machine, but the best podcasting machine, Doc El Idolo. We are tranquilo today on a Tuesday. How are you doing?
Well, doing pretty good. Obviously, doing a little bit better than the current governor of New York, I guess. I was resigning, apparently. But that's for another podcast, another time, and another channel.
Yikes.
Yeah, it is a big yikes. But we have the sporting news that you've been craving. NFL and NBA, Johnny, as we had obviously the Hall of Fame class enshrined, their bust hung, and they are in the Hall of Fame building. The speeches were given. There were songs sang about mamas. There was hair flowing. Detroit Lion fans were going crazy for Megatron. I mean, it was wild. But we also have new eligible people. So let's start with the current class, and then let's work our way through those eligible folks. And of course, last season we did talk about those finalists, but I really want to give a shout out to Charles Woodson. That's really the only reason I want to go through this, because the guy sat here and sang Boys to Men to his mother for the first 5 minutes, holding back tears. His mother, Georgia Woodson, and her baby boy just sitting there singing Mama. Wow. What a moment. And I honestly, I didn't watch it live. I watched it on YouTube, so I don't know the order, but I could tell you one thing. I would have hated to have followed Peyton Manning.
Of course.
I'm hoping that he really went last, but I don't think so.
I don't think he went last.
Yeah, it seems like he opened the show, because I mean, it's like he had all the jokes. He had every emotion, and it was amazing. He had people booing Tom Brady. He was crying, talking about his dad and his brothers and his wife. Probably all in great speech, but I was really happy for everyone up there, without question. It was really awesome. But obviously, we now have a new set of eligible players for the 2022. I guess their first year that they're eligible.
Yes.
Right. And I know this particular class eligible individuals is kind of highlighted by, some would say, some of the best receivers have ever played the game. Not all of them, but some of them.
Some really, really good receivers.
Big time. Number one, Andre Johnson, who spent the majority of his career with the Texans. He's eligible for the first time in 2022. Obviously, 7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. Never really got the recognition because obviously he played for the Texans. And through most of those years, and even today, they continue to struggle to find not only their identity.
Like the only thing that people remember Andre Johnson for is his fight with Cortland Finnegan.
Oh, big time. Big time. But I also know that that was a pretty big moment. I mean, their rivalry was really awesome. Next, we had Reggie Wayne,
Mm-hmm.
who obviously Peyton Manning was lobbying for on the actual stage. It was actually pretty funny. Um, and then I believe it was Steve Smith being the other participant out of that wide receiver core, which obviously Steve Smith, I don't think a lot of people had him slated to be a Hall of Famer. Obviously, he was undersized as a wide receiver, but he always played bigger than his size. Um, and obviously, as a Bucks fan, I hated him because he was so fast. He was shifty. I mean, the deep ball, the across the middle. It didn't matter what you did. He would always come out on top. So I always hated playing against Steve Smith. And actually, I forgot one receiver, and that would be Anquan Bolden.
I was just about to
Um,
call you on that, actually.
yeah, don't call me on anything. I was gonna say, I mean, fortunately and unfortunately, Anquan Bolden is hands down one of the best Cardinals to ever play. Obviously, not considering Larry, right? But he's one of the better. I mean, a lot of people remember him for taking that huge shot against the Jets and holding onto the ball, even though his face was like broken in several different places, and then coming back like a week and a half later to to continue playing. So yeah, Anquan Bolden, but he also does a lot of things off the field. That's awesome because I know he leads a lot of the social justice campaigns for things like Black Lives Matter and kind of making sure that people are not so much judgmental against law enforcement, but kind of bringing the two together to try to end some of this, I guess, some of this noise that we always hear, right? So that's one thing I do appreciate about Anquan Bolden. Now, some of the other names um, and hopefuls, we have Demarcus Ware, the longtime Cowboy and then Bronco.
Yep.
Um,
Who did win a Super Bowl with the Broncos too?
he did, he
Part of that
did.
stifling Wade Phillips defense.
Yeah, which Wade needs those rushers, and Demarcus Ware is that indeed a great rusher. 117 sacks in Dallas alone.
Mm-hmm.
He retired with 138 and a half, and 8 double-digit sack seasons, which is quite the feat.
Absolutely.
One of the best tackles in football history. Unfortunately, he played for again, a franchise that just did not ever succeed or get to that level was Tony Baselli.
Yep.
Not only on the field in real life, but heck, in Madden, I don't care what you do. If you see Tony Baselli on free agents, you're spending all your money. You're throwing away all your draft picks. You're trying to get the best tackles in football, and he's it. Um, but unfortunately, his career ended. I think his career ended slightly short, but it was pretty still a long career. But I believe that he could have still played. Um, but I'm glad that he's getting the nod this particular year.
Well, he's getting the nod to be eligible.
Eligible,
He hasn't gotten
yes,
the nod to be in
eligible.
it.
All of these people will become eligible, and that's the part that stinks because there are so many people who are currently eligible who
Mm-hmm.
just aren't getting in. But it's not like the people who are getting in are lower choices. So that's the part
No.
that's good,
Well, I mean, of course, you also got to count in the politics of it all too.
of course. Now, the next person is also probably pound for pound one of the greatest linebackers to ever play. Not the greatest, but one of the greatest, and that's Zach Thomas.
Yep.
But again, Zach Thomas played for a Dolphins team during that time period that
They weren't that great.
offensively they just weren't that good. You think, him and a couple other guys, right? I mean, that Dolphins defense during that time period, which
They
is
were legit.
slightly, yeah, they were slightly before Tom Brady took over. I mean, I guess the competition was still steep, but the Dolphins just never took off. And I think Zach is there during that Ricky Williams period. He's there for a lot of this, but they just never ever, um, they just never found their way, and that stinks. And that's the part where it's like you look at players who are on these teams for a long time, and they just don't get to the Super Bowl, or even in other sports, right?
Yes.
You think about these players who don't get the opportunity to go to championships. Now everybody's like, "Oh, Melo desperately wants to win a ring," right? In basketball, but it's like it stinks because in certain cases the players are so loyal to the team when they really should be focused. I mean, a lot of times you would think they would be focused on winning, but I always believe at this particular time the players believed in the franchises a little bit more than they do now.
Of course.
A little bit more, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and the last person that I have here, and you let me know if you have anybody else, is Richard Seymour, who, for the Patriots as well as the Raiders, really, really has some quality years. Obviously, he won 3 titles with the Patriots, and he went to a Pro Bowl 5 times and was a 3-time
All
All
pro.
Pro. Richard Seymour is a really, really versatile player. Obviously, he played inside and outside, similar to what you kind of see Aaron Donald doing today. I wouldn't say that Richard Seymour was as strong as Aaron Donald, but I will say Richard Seymour probably was the closest to Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald came. I mean, he was really, really good. His versatility, his strength, his speed. He was really, really a solid player up until the end with the Raiders. But I don't know if he'll get in the first try.
I
Uh,
don't think so.
yeah,
Unless they have some kind of circumstances that would give him the nod early, but I don't see him getting in first.
I feel you. And
But
I
there
don't
was
either.
one other person that I
Hit me with
had.
it.
Head coach Dick Vermelli. Vermeil,
Oh, Dick,
sorry.
Dick Vermeil. Oh, I didn't even. I see, that's so weird. That's I don't hear, but I'm surprised. And this is his first
This is
year.
his first year eligible.
Oh my God, it's
I
him.
know.
That's crazy.
I know.
I never would have even known that. Dick Vermeil's a heck of a coach. Um,
And
I
that's, just counting his NFL stuff, but like the things he did
right,
with like UCLA was pretty incredible as well too.
exactly, exactly. I would say I'm shocked. I'm in utter disbelief. Doc is, as you would say, on tilt.
Doc's not on tilt. He's just saying it.
No, he's not on tilt. He is just saying that. But yeah, it is pretty shocking that he's not. Yeah, he's not. That's pretty shocking to me. But yeah, I would say that he has a high chance of getting in.
I could see that. I think I need to see what the coaching pool looks like before I can definitively agree with that. Because I think there might be some other coaches that may end up getting in before him. But I mean, he has a heck of a resume. So he definitely has a really good argument. And I'm not talking the college football selection committee either, folks.
Yeah, that's really, really crazy. That he hasn't at least been eligible. I'm finding that so hard to believe.
It's not as far fetched as it seems.
It is, because during the '90s, Dick Vermeil and a couple other these coaches were really, really like dominating. They were moving from, obviously a lot of them were going from team to team, right? And then you just knew certain coaches, right? It's like I always mention Jeff Fisher, but
Yep.
Jeff Fisher, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, you look further, you got the freaking why am having such brain fog. Oh my God, I can't think of names right now, but you got the Harbaughs, right? But back then, it was all about, the Ryans. You got, as you mentioned, um, dang it, what is his name? You mentioned the Cowboys coach that went to the Broncos,
Wade Phillips.
Wade freaking Phillips. He got several jobs. Yeah, I'm having a really hard time right now. I don't know why. But yeah, somebody like Wade Phillips, like a lot of these guys got a lot of the jobs back then. Obviously, Bill Parcells, a lot of those older coaches, Andy Reid, Mike Holmgren, right? You think Dick Vermeil, like that's just what you think. Schottenheimer,
Yep.
like those are just the guys that you just think of. But I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he at least gets the eligible nod. I think he may get in first try.
Well, we shall see. We have to see what the full pool is going to look like for next year.
And it's a big pool. And that's the thing about it. Like there's so many people who are eligible. I mean, and so many people who are like, oh, I can't believe this person isn't in, that person in. Obviously, the conversation always is TO, right? Like we always talk about TO when this comes around. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of politics with that. There's a lot of politics with that. But we had an extension, Johnny. Two extensions. One extension and one restructure, right? We broke the news 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I'll say, that the Dolphins had a disgruntled cornerback, X.Howard Howard, wanted a new deal. He was requesting a trade. He was literally pushing and pulling himself outside of Miami, trying to potentially end his tenure and get off the Dolphins screen. But they were able to work out a new deal, get him some more cash, get him some more incentives, make him happy. It was the culmination of show me the money.
Yep.
Like somewhere freaking Jerry Maguire, Xavier Howard got the call from Xavier Howard, like, listen, Jerry, ants are crawling up my wall. I got kids. This person needs a new car. Bay, needs this, right? Turn on the music. Turn on the
Dolphins
music.
initially was like, you got kids? We got kids too.
We got kids. So let's have a conversation about those kids. Exactly. Oh God, that's it. Exactly. I don't give about your kids.
That was initially. And then he said, oh, well, I want to trade then. No.
Wait a minute. I didn't say I don't give a about your kids.
I was just joking. Those are just jokes.
I don't give a about those kids over there, not your kids, those kids. Yeah. But yeah, we reworked the deal, got him a $1 million Pro Bowl incentive, $2.5 million incentive for, I guess, just additional incentives. His salary can go upwards to 16.2 million, where I think initially it was for about 12, 13.
Yep.
He also gets a per game roster bonus of 100,000, or excuse me, 500,000 for roster bonus, and then 100,000 for workout bonuses. And I think it also, Ian Rappaport also added that 6.7 million of that 2022 salary is going to be guaranteed at signing. So they're increasing it, the incentives, just to make sure, which again, I understand. It's like when you sign the contract, you were unsure or you were unaware, and I'm happy that he voiced his concern.
You forgot to put the other part too. His $12.9 million salary for 2022 is guaranteed for injury as well too, so he doesn't lose.
Oh yeah. So I guess that was also a major thing, because you saw what happened with some players who play, especially on like franchise tags, right?
Yep.
Like they play on these tags and then they get hurt. Earl Thomas, right? They get hurt. Like, exactly. Oh yeah. But that's great. He gets an opportunity to, um, yeah, he gets an opportunity to play, and that's awesome, and get paid for it. So I'm really happy for him. But who else I'm happy for? A very, very underrated linebacker, even though he's probably one of the best. He's really underrated. Darius Leonard gets the bag. 5 years, $99.25 million with 52.5 guaranteed. He will earn $20 million. $20 million over the first 3 years alone. But he deserves it. He really
Yeah.
is good. He's been a game changer.
He's been a defensive tackling machine.
Yeah, he's really, really been a game changer. So I give him a lot of credit. I'm very happy that I personally don't have to see him more than once every year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. But that division, for this money, that division is in for a ravishing rude awakening.
I mean, they still have the Titans to deal with, but sure.
Well, for $20 million, listen, for $20 million, he could take on those stiff arms. He had more money to recover. He got more money to get bigger, eat great. He could eat great for the next 80 years on $20 million. So he ain't got nothing to worry about. But speaking of game changers, let's jump over to the NBA really quickly for these rule changes that are going to change the way some of the basketball is played. Johnny, hit me with some rules.
So we finally, and I have been calling about this since 2012, we have some rule changes in place that benefits the defense.
Right.
Like, it only took almost a decade, 20 years if you really want to talk about it. I mean, they kind of did the whole putting your feet out while you're shooting thing, the Reggie Miller rule.
Right.
But now you can't initiate contact, which means if you're going for a head fake, the defender goes up in the air. And instead of you going straight up, you decide to lean to the right or lean to the left and initiate the contact and tossing the ball up to the rim to draw that foul. Well, now that will be an offensive foul.
Right. Which makes sense because even in, let's just say 2K.
Which, of course, it's not just limited to jump shots. And so even if you're trying to drive it in.
Yeah.
Like a lot of point guards like to do that. They'll be in the paint and then they kind of just lean into
flopping all over the place. Oh my God. I wish flopping. Oh my God. If flopping became.
That has yet to still really be.
I know. But
they have flopping a rule, but they don't do that.
Oh my God. If flopping became some type of technical foul, it would be so epic because
I would watch
it really is bad.
Games more.
Right. So the shooter launches or leans into the defender at an abnormal angle. So it doesn't, I guess it wouldn't be, if you just happen to land,
No, that's different. We're talking about you are going out of your way to make the contact.
Right. And I'm just reading the points here, which is that the point, the offensive player abruptly veers off his path, sideways or backwards. The shooter kicks his leg up. Obviously, that was already in play.
Yep.
The offensive player's off arm hooks. Oh, this is a big
one. That's a big one.
The offensive player hooks the defender. Listen, James Harden probably left Houston and freaking Raphael Stone said, "Oh, you want to see it?" Freaking Maury said, "Oh, okay. You don't want to come to Philly? I got something for you." And they probably put these rules in like.
No, I feel like it's gotten more egregious. I wouldn't say it was James Harden that kind of started it. I mean, again, this is something that's been a decade in the making. For those that don't know, this has been a decade in the making. Actually, about 12 years in the making, maybe even 14 if we're really going to be honest about it. But basically, you can't. So this is in play of if you're swiping the ball underneath to hook the arm, That's
So
outlawed now.
I'm not. Yeah, saying I'm not sure I mean, I'm not 100% sure they should outlaw that. I do believe the ring around the rosy thing that a lot of players do,
Mm-hmm.
where they like grab the arm and they're just like,
Yep.
ring around the rosy.
Exactly. That's
Layup.
also outlawed too. I
Yeah.
honestly, they both should be outlawed.
So I'm okay because really you shouldn't be reaching anyway. People should be reaching, but I don't know if I would be able to say if you're swinging around and going up. I don't know if they should consider that an offensive foul. That's the only thing that's going to be weird because it's like the defensive player in that situation shouldn't be reaching at that point. They should be calling a common foul.
We're talking about if it's not so much as if they're reaching, is if they decide to do that and like the defender's like right there, like he's in the perfect position for it. But normally, if the offensive player does that swipe up and initiate that contact, it's going to be defensive get that foul. They're going to be called for the foul.
Offensive foul or?
No, defensive foul.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's the way it should be called. I mean, I know a lot of times they might not have done it, but there are some people who just go a little overboard with it. Like
I think
I know Embiid does that a lot.
That officiating in the NBA has been a problem for about 3 decades. It's been a problem.
And I wish it was because of like all the rule changes, but we don't really get a whole bunch of rule changes.
Nope.
And the rule changes should come with the new style of play. Like you got people doing all kinds of step backs, and I mean, it's a whole bunch of moves now that 20, 30 years ago, maybe one person, did a step back or a fadeaway, but now it's like every single person does it at all levels, and it's starting to get a little out of hand. But we'll see how it goes. Right?
We'll see how it goes. They're starting it now in the summer league.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So those that are actually watching the summer league, like Doc and Prof is,
yep,
you'll be able to see some of these rule changes manifest within themselves. Now, we're not going to see it so much with the rookies. It's really more of the seasonal vets. So we'll see what happens once it's implemented for this upcoming season.
Absolutely. But I know that people heard this show on their favorite podcast platform. And if you didn't, you can always go to our website at www.debateamongstfriends.com, not only for this episode, but all of the previous. Be sure to tune in Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. as we deliver all of the news, the analysis, and the reads.